Hey everyone, welcome to another $1,000 strap search. I've got my $1,000 in singles here and I'm about to show you what I found. But before I do, let's talk about this week's tip. Now, I'm a fat guy. And as all fat guys, my doctor said you should lose some weight. So I started walking. Still a fat guy, but not quite as much as a fat guy, so yay there. But I tend to be observant when I'm walking. And aside from being able to walk around my block and know exactly which neighbors I will not send my nephews to go trick or treating at just because of what they hang out front, um, I observed all kinds of other things. For example, imagine a tree, and just to make it easier, pretend there are no leaves on this tree. So that's all you have is a bunch of branches. Think about how that tree grows. You've got the trunk, and then you've got branches, and each of those branches branch off, and so on down the line. So, the question is, do the branches ever grow touching each other? Now, it seems like an obvious answer. Of course not. No, why would they? That's not the way. You're not going to naturally have a tree tie itself into knots, right? I mean, it's just common sense until you start looking. As I was walking, I saw a tree where the two branches were touching, pressed up against each other, pushed to the point where they were rubbing each other there, and that's just how the branch was. And I thought, wow, how unique. I have never seen anything like that. And then I walked another 100 feet, and there was another tree where the branches were touching. And then I walked another 500 feet, and there was another tree. And then I walked another 100 feet, and there was another one. It just so happens that once you spot something that's different, you tend to spot it all the time. What am I talking about? I'm talking about when you're looking at currency and you happen to see a wedding transfer. And of course, now that I just randomly flip through this, there's not going to be one that jumps out at me. When you spot the smallest defect on a note, maybe it's the centering, maybe it's the wedding transfer, maybe it's one digit slightly higher than the other. When you first spot that and you think it's a big deal, that's the other thing. I thought these two branches were a big deal. But once you spot something and think it's a big deal, you will then see it everywhere. Well, if you see it everywhere, it's not an error. When you see it everywhere, it's not rare. And if it's not rare, it most certainly doesn't have any monetary value. So keep that in mind. The next time you go for a walk and you see two branches that are actually touching each other, see how often that happens to pop up. Just like if you sort through a bunch of singles and spot something, you will see how often that pops up. Doesn't make it valuable. None of those trees are worth any more than any of the other trees. All right, let's take a peek at what I found this week. Starting off, found a birthday note. It is backwards, but if it was my birthday, I'd still be excited. It's 2013, the 13th of September. So yeah, that's kind of neat. You will see people that will have 2013 and then random numbers here, and they'll call that a birthday note because it has a year. No, I don't think so. You will see other people that will find the 13 and the 9 and use that as the month and the day, and it'll have 9,427. Is that a birthday note? Well, technically it's a future birthday note, right? But you see how it really doesn't matter. You'll find people calling them history notes. If there was a specific event on that day, for instance, if you had 07041776, yeah, that's a significant date. But if you had 05081777, well, maybe not. So yeah, if there's a specific date, yes, If there's not anything that happened on that specific date, it's probably not worth anything. Found some trinaries, 2s, 7s, and 9s, 0s, 4s, and 5s, 0s, 1s, and 8s. And yes, there's a pair, there's a pair, there's a pair. So what? It's a trinary. It's not worth anything. People will tell you, you can sell these. To who? Who's buying them? And whoever is buying them, why are you buying them? They're not hard to find. Please don't waste your money on stuff like this. I save these because they are trinaries and I'm trying to match two numbers. Because having two bills with the exact same serial number, that's pretty cool. And it's hard to do. This is quads, quad ones. And you can see it has a bank teller counter stamp on it. Not an error, not worth anything. You've seen enough of my not an error videos to see how many people try to sell these as errors. No, not an error. Quad ones again. And quad twos, quad sixes with a fifth, quad sevens, some stars. Always check your stars, make sure they aren't filled in. 2017A, 2017A in really nice shape, 2017 in good shape, 2017, another 2017. I will go through all my stars when I do my after the hunt video. I will end up with 200 stars and it'll take me 5 minutes to go through all of them. There are sites that you can go onto and type in every single one of these numbers, but to type in every one of these numbers will take you about 30 seconds to look up the star note. 30 seconds times 200 notes, that would be 100 minutes. That would take me an hour and 40 minutes to type in every single star note. I refuse to do that, so I just save up my stars, put them all in order, and then check the table. It's so much easier. I know other people have just memorized which ones are rare. I have way too much useless knowledge in my brain to fill it with anything useful anymore. That's why I keep making these videos, so I can listen to myself, teach myself about my hobby. All right. Got some older notes. This is a 2003A in really nice shape. 2003A, not so much. And another one, good color, but bad paper. 2013 or 2003A once again, pretty rough. This one's also rough. The rough ones are going back. I just like to show how many I find. I'll keep the good ones. Why do I keep the good ones? Well, they're 20 years old, and let's face it, nobody else is. That's why. So I make sure to save a couple of the nicer condition ones of each year. I don't do that until they're 20 years old, though. 2003, rough shape. 2001, another year that's kind of hard to find because they made these 2001, then they came out with 2003. These were only around for a short period of time. So for this one to be in good shape, that's pretty cool. 1999, another 99, another 99. Lots of ones on that, doesn't matter. 99. Here's a prize. Look at this error. Major gutter fold error. No, this bill was torn in half the long way. That's some anger issues there to tear it in half the long way. Anyway, it's taped. It's still a 99. Not saving it. I found it. I figured I'd share it. Another 99. 1995. Checking to see if it's a web note. It is not. And you can check it here. You can check it here. And you can check it on the back. On the back, the plate number is on the bottom. If the plate number is next to trust, then it is a web note, but we don't even have to flip it to see that because we know about if there's anything here, it's not a web note. This tells the location on the sheet. Web notes were printed on a continuous roll, not on a sheet, so there is no location. 1995, once again, still not a web note, but in really nice shape. Not so much on this one, however, it's an I note, but it's got a counter stamp from Davenport, Iowa. Yeah, too bad it's not worth anything, though. 1988A, first opportunity for a web note. It is not. 1988. 1985. And what do we got here? 1981A. And the oldest note actually still has some good paper quality to it. 1969D from Minneapolis. So that's pretty cool. I'll check the book, see if I have that one or not. All right, so what did I pull out this week? Well, I've seen a couple people doing videos on these, and I did a video on them way back in the day without knowing a whole lot. Not that I know much more about them, but I did learn a little bit. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Notgeld. These are German Notgeld. You can see Notgeld right there. Notgelderstad. What are these? These are pretty fascinating, actually. These were put out in the around 1920, and these were put out due to World War One. This is one of the more famous ones that's out there. I've got two of these, so I probably will be selling one. And there's like 5 of them in here, if I remember right. Okay, but like I said, what are these? These came out around 1920. Varying years from 1918 to 1923, I think, is when you're going to find the different notes. And what happened was, well, because of World War One, hyperinflation set in Germany, and their monetary system just went to crap. And you can find ridiculous denominations of notes, but I mean that doesn't help. Okay, just because some countries' money is no longer worth anything doesn't mean that the country doesn't need an actual system of currency to survive. It just wasn't backed by the German government. What happened was individual towns would come up with their own types of currency, okay? Because currency still had to be exchanged for goods and services. Essentially, these were IOUs, because Notgeld, I guess one of the original translations was not money. So it was more of a coupon than anything else. It's one way to look at it. The other thing is that you can see how ornate these are, okay? Each town could make their own Notgeld, and the idea wasn't necessarily to spend them. The idea was for people to come into town and collect them. So much so that if you would get one of each denomination from any given place, it would read almost like a comic book. I don't have any of the ones that look truly like comic books. These are more like mini postcards. So, like I said, the idea wasn't for these necessarily to be spent. What would happen is they would print a bunch of these so they could be spent, but they would actually be relying on people coming through trying to collect them. Now, because these were collector's items, even though these were put out in the 1920s, you're going to see that these are in really good shape. And that's why they're in good shape, because they were designed to be collected. There's numerous denominations. I do not have a book describing the values on them. However, this particular one, with the donkey doing his thing, if you can read German, there you go. I had a video on this particular note in the past. I think I paid $20 for this note in the past. This one I got a little cheaper. I have no idea on the values of these, but that doesn't change the fact that they aren't cool. They are very cool. And let's face it, that's something you don't see every day on a note. Anyway, that's what I've got this week. The Notgeld from 1920s Germany. Like I said, made for collectors, used for spending, but more so they were able to sell these to travelers and people who were trying to collect them, and that's kind of how the towns would survive. All right, if you learned anything new, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. I love reading all your comments. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.